All right, welcome back to Bye Guys Crypto Show, special guest edition, the first of its kind. I'm Raff.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Stu.
We're here to talk crypto all day, every day, the American way. At least every Monday, once a week, we get together to talk about our favorite subjects in crypto. And tonight we have a very special guest, J-Man. J-Man is a relative of Raff. J-Man is my older cousin. Hails in, where are you now? North Carolina, by way of Blacksburg, Virginia. Good old days we used to get together, and now we're here to talk crypto. I gotta first say, this is not financial advice. It's entertainment purposes only. This show is 30% Cheetos, 20% Doritos Cool Ranch, and 50% veggie sticks. Let's get to it, and let's start with a little introduction, a little background. So, as I said, J-Man is my cousin, and we had our family reunion a little over a year ago. So summer of 2020, deep in the COVID summer, right? We were in North Carolina, Corolla, very nice place there for my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. I got to say, J-Man impressed me because he was every day breaking out on his computer, Excel sheets within Excel sheets, pivot tables. He had it all going on. And I was like, what is this guy doing? He's a whiz, man. And it turns out he's deep into stocks, traditional stocks, buy, hold, sell, trade. And I just kind of picked up a little bit of knowledge from him there that week. And he said, what are you invested in, cousin Raff? I said, well, I'm pretty boring. I'm pretty pedestrian. I got my IRAs. I got my 401ks. I got my little side investments, but it's all munis. Is that what it's called? Mutual funds? I don't even know. The bottom line is he's like, well, you got to know what you're invested in, man. You got to know what markets, you got to at least have a sense of what the hot markets are to make good returns, right? I said, well, I don't think that hard about this stuff, but what has performed extraordinarily well for me over the past couple of years is this cryptocurrencies, like cryptos. I'd never touch that stuff. I don't understand that stuff. I said, it's okay. It's never stopped me. And the reality is I just dipped my toe in very small amounts, frankly, because I heard some tips from some coworkers back in 2017, 2018. It performed extraordinarily well. And then I've started to educate myself over the past couple of years. We talked about it a little bit that summer. And I said, look, man, it's really hard to explain, but I'd like to learn more about the stock market. Maybe we could start a stock market web show, and we could, you could teach me, like you could help me invest, and I'd maybe give you a little cut off the top if we did well, and he kept hounding me there for a couple of weeks. Hey, when are we gonna do a show, Rob? When are we gonna do the show? Anyway, bottom line is it fell off the radar. And then the crypto market started to take off. I did convince J-Man to invest in some crypto. And I think you said it was August or September of 2020. You finally bit the bullet. Isn't that right?
That's right.
And that was probably at about 11,000 a coin back then, which seems like the old days. It's not even a year ago, right? I mean, that's fascinating. And when you did that, what was going through your mind? Because you didn't know what you were buying, really. I said, you got to open a Coinbase account, bro. And he's like, no. When you tried to do that the first time, they asked you for all sorts of questions. Like, I can't do this. I don't trust this. I don't know what's going on. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah. So I kind of looked at Coinbase, and then they're asking for your credentials to your bank account, all that stuff. And you're like, this is a little bit too much information. So I ended up, doing a little more research. And I finally ended up opening up an account. And, I think from my side, it was kind of like, it's definitely new for everyone. But it seems in theory like it's a good way to go. But, a lot of things have happened in the last year. And so I just had a lot of questions. And so that was, in our talking, love to kind of get your guys' feedback on some of my questions.
Absolutely. J-Man, he reached out to me. He asked me these questions over the past year. He's been asking a lot of questions. I always tell him, this is not financial advice, J-Man. This is very, very, very much just me speaking off what I hear, what I understand, but I'm by no means an expert, but I'm learning as I go. And it's been a lot of fun. And we're really happy to have you on the Bye Guys tonight as our first ever special guest. I will say one thing that I think pushed you into this, or like kind of convinced you that there was something potentially promising about this space, if I recall, was when PayPal got in. I think you're a big fan of Jack Dorsey's Square. You started to think, hey, if these guys are getting, and these institutions are starting to invest, there's got to be something to it, right? So it's worth taking a risk. And you jumped in at 11K, and I think now you're feeling pretty good, even though it peaked at 65 or down in the low 30s It's turned out pretty well. So I'm going to get a cut of that. I take it once you
That's
pull
right.
out at some point. And
Exactly.
then, but you're also starting to dabble in some other coins. You're learning. This gets us to the key point though tonight, fellas. J-Man emailed us some questions in advance. And again, this is our first ever special guest on the Bye Guys, and we're excited to have you. I think what we can do is have a title for this series that we're going to launch here. It's called, this is where I want Jeff to pull up the screen and share it, but let's lay it on. Bye Guys Crypto Show, special guest episode, FAQ4U, special guest J-Man, FAQ4U. And here we go with the J-Man. Question 1. If cryptocurrency is built for the average man, i.e. the unbanked, then why do they make it so dang on hard to set up and acquire? All these passphrases, seed phrases, long strings of send codes. That's a great question. So I'm going to turn that over to Jeff and Stu and let them gnaw on it before I jump in with the correct answer.
Well, Jeff's going to give you an educated answer. So let's start with the dumb answer first. And so I'll always lead off. And I will just tell you that the crypto market, they want you to be just completely in. All right. They need you to be committed. Crypto is not, J-Man, for the weak need. Okay. There's no time to vacillate, brother. You are either in or you are not. So if this cryptocurrency is getting it hard to set up and acquire, if that turns you off, then you know what? Crypto is not going to be for you. It's just not going to be for you. But I'm glad you're in.
A great answer. I mean, for all of these, I think we're all going to have a different answer on this one. And as I read your question, Jim, I thought it was really good to just start out because I'm dealing with the same thing. I'm a couple months into this. I wish I'd have got in when you did. Wish Raff would have talked me into this back a year ago instead of when was the peak this year? That's when I got in. Buy high. I got in at Bitcoin at I think my dollar cost average on Bitcoin is like 52,000 right now. So not good, but long term, it's if it goes to 200,000, like a lot of people think, then I'm just going to hang on to it. So either way, to your question, why is it so difficult? We just talked about this on the episode recently, and it is. I mean, it's absolutely a barrier to entry to figure all this craziness out, to figure out the exchanges, to figure out the seed phrases, to figure out cold wallets and hard wallets and soft wallets and warm wallets. It's insane. However, is it harder than, and I think this leads us to like the blockchain technology in general and why it's so attractive to the 4 billion unbanked. There's a lot of people that can't even get to a bank, right? So if they have a mobile device and they can figure out how to log on to a Coinbase and figure out how to transact with a mobile app, yes, there's some barrier to adoption, but compared to having zero options, I think that offers a lot more, flexibility long-term. And maybe for somebody like, and guys like us that have a lot of options in a first world market with banks and apps and, information at our fingertips. Yeah. Compared to everything else we have so far, it seems difficult, but for somebody that has zero options and is unbanked and all they have is a cell phone and that's their only option, it's a hell of an option. So I'm looking at it through the lens of those that have less options in general. So it is harder, but I think it's going to get a lot easier.
I guess one of the questions I have, so like if Coinbase is all tied in to bank accounts to actually pay out the coins, then how do like the unbanked people, if they don't have bank accounts to fund the accounts, get the accounts set up?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like right now,
I don't think they'd use exchanges, right? They
Yeah.
wouldn't use the exchanges like we would. It would be through like token coins that don't use an exchange, if I'm not mistaken. Raff, tell me if I'm wrong on that.
I think that's right, but I don't know exactly, again, how this all works. You don't have to have a bank account to have a wallet. So for instance, but you're right, Jimmy, someone initially has to purchase from an exchange. And I would presume most purchases on exchanges take place by someone linking their bank account or using a credit card or having some access to traditional banking service to purchase cryptocurrency. But then they can send it to someone once it's out there in the world and someone has it on their wallet
They can get paid by it.
It can be shuffled around anywhere, right? And exchanged and traded and passed around. So
they can set up an account and they can receive Bitcoin or other coins from
right.
people,
Yep.
even if they don't have a bank account set up. So if they provide a service or what have you, and they get paid in that currency, therefore not needing a bank account, but having
The nature
Coinbase has a wallet, just a regular wallet that you can just send assets to without, purchasing anything from it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think Jimmy has a great point there. I think Stu hit on it. It's going to be a barrier for some people, and it's going to keep out a lot of, I think, average folks. If you think that crypto is for the average person, why are you making it so freaking difficult and hard? Here's the thing, though. It's not difficult. It's a different way of doing things. And maybe one idea I was going to throw out here before we move on to the next question is, do you guys remember, and I think we're all old enough to remember, the first money machine that came to your town, right? That was an extraordinarily strange thing. Like, I remember it was in West Virginia, where I'm from. It was a sort of small brick building, almost like a trailer, that was put up in a vacant parking lot. It was called MAC, M-A-C. And you could go in there and you have a card that was connected to your savings account, and you could type some buttons and it would spit out cash. This raised all sorts of questions, because it's a different way of getting money versus, hey, I got my paycheck, I'm going to go to the bank, the branch, and I'm going to sign it and get cash right there. I can get cash 24/7. All I got to do is roll in. But that raised all sorts of questions. Hey, how's that happening? And how much you have to pay fees for it? What is that all about? And also, what's the security? Is there someone going to be waiting outside and clock me on the head because they just know I pulled cash out of this box at 2 a.m? And then I think it took a time for that convenience to become second nature. And I guess the question is, I haven't done the history on this. How long did it take for humans to adapt, to stop going to the bank to get their money, but to actually go to other places to get it? And then what we're really seeing is the complete transfer from physical to digital. And it's going to take time, but I think ultimately, if you look at younger generations, their I guess, contentment or happiness with digital exchanges and texts and tweets and TikTok and all that stuff, it seems like this is going to be the way things are going.
And they're quick to adopt, right? I mean, you just touched on it. They're quick to adopt the new technologies, and we've said it. And Jimmy, you've been very kind in being one of the few loyal subscribers. So you've heard it. I mean, it's very much in the infancy stages, and so what this looks like a year from now is just, it won't even be close to the same. I would imagine.
Your man Jack Dorsey just announced that Square is going to try to get in some custody, and we just wrapped this on our recent episode. We all agree this is a huge barrier. I'm willing to, right now, just as I'm willing to pay a bank a certain amount of money to hold my money and protect it and feel secure, I'd be open to having a third party custody my cryptos. That's not true for everybody, and maybe not all people in the world will have access to that type of service. So it's hard to tell. Anyway, let's move on to the next question, because that was a good one to kick it off. Second one is meme stocks. We're going to kind of dig into there and understand what we mean by that. If meme stocks are all the rage these days, by the way, they're not for me. I'm not a fan at all, but it's strange, right? Aren't cryptos kind of like this very hyper fluctuating in their value and stuff? If meme stocks are all the rage and these same investors are buying crypto, the Reddit crew, if you will, the crypto, what do you call that?
AMC apes.
Yeah, the AMC apes, right? Is it possible to see momentum runs in certain crypto, and how are the potential ones identified early? Because obviously, if you can get early on that run, it's absurd. AMC,
GameStop,
get out of here. And the version of this, I guess you'd say, of this in crypto, the obvious one comes to mind is Doge,
Yeah.
or Shiba, which is kind of trying to become the new meme coin. And that's a great question, Stu. We're gonna go back in order because I don't have a good answer for this one off the top of my head. Kick it over to Stu there.
No, and I don't. I don't. And you can go down and a lot of rabbit holes, and I'll reference that later on probably. But just and that's kind of what we're at. I mean, that's kind of the whole nature of our little, kind of moon bowls, trying to find that one little kind of token or crypto that you can say, okay, I'll put a little bit in here and hope that it takes off. But I personally would be telling you a great untruth if I said, yeah, I'm able to kind of do this. I've tried to look at some projects on ecosystems that you think have some potential, right? I know that the three of us have talked about Polkadot, for example. And, so I'll go on there and then I'll spend some time going down and looking at some things, some categories that I think might be emerging. But then again, I don't know what's emerging. I think, in the conversations we've had, okay, it seems like this might make some sense. So you start looking at maybe some coins or some tokens that you think maybe there's some value there. Okay, you can afford to get in and hopefully, you catch one. But a lot of them are going to kind of go this way. We want them to go this way. And, I don't know the other folks here that would tell you that they know how to kind of predict that any more than the man in the moon. But I don't know.
And then it's a question that I think Jimmy or J-Man has, which is like, well, is that really investing or is that gambling?
Gambling at this point, for me at least, personally. I mean, again, you two are more sophisticated, I'm sure, but for me, it's no more me just going out to Vegas right now and throwing $50 on black.
Yeah,
that's just my honest answer.
I mean, Stu, to your point, to this question, I mean, personally, I run all this through the lens of an investor. I'm not a trader. I haven't sold anything. I probably won't sell anything for years, to be honest. And I'm looking at, I don't look at meme stocks in any way, shape, or form with any interest. So I know some do, but they typically tend to be on the uninformed side of the spectrum, which we are, but maybe they're a little further on the other end of it. And they're looking to sell and make short-term gains. I don't think that's something that at least the three of us probably aren't eyeing momentum runs based on hype and lack of utility. I think the utility piece is where we tend to get the most interest. And a lot of the projects that you'll hear us talk about, even the ones that are fractional 2 cents, half a cent, 3 cents in nature, like TEL and AMP, they all have very unique problem solving utility that 5 years down the road are going to solve real problems. So the things that we tend to be interested in are backed up with utility. But if you want to make a quick buck, there are people that are all over trying to ride some of these momentum cycles and make a short-term gain as a trader.
How those meme stocks affected your strategies in the stock market, Jimmy?
I try to stay away from them because I look at things like AMC and GameStop as Blockbuster 2.0, and I can't wrap my brain around how these stocks can value out at the prices that they are. And I've in situations where I've actually had stocks that have ended up getting into the meme buying cycle, I cash out. So if there's a big run up in a particular stock that for whatever reason gets deemed as a meme stock and it runs up and I'm in there as a long-term holder, I cash out because I'm not going to ride the wave. And if they determine that one of those stocks that I own is foreseen as a meme stock, then I'm gonna make money while it's up, as opposed to getting greedy and trying to hold it to the maximum value.
Well, I respect that because you're not a trader. You're a hodler, as they say in the crypto world. But you were like old school hodler back when it was called just holding for years. So you're a holder in the stock world. We're hodlers in the crypto markets. We have that in common. Moving on, if crypto is a store of value, why would I acquire and sell quickly? As it seems likely the strategy would be to buy and hold. This is a great transition. I didn't even know that question was coming. Stu, I'm going to kick it back to you because I don't have an immediate answer.
Well, I feel like I'm clearly like this is golf here, where I'm the D golfer, and I'm just lining up all the putts for you guys, and you come in behind and give some really sophisticated answers. And I'm just out there hitting every damn ball into the woods first. But no, I mean, buy and hold is the only strategy that I have, and I think there are a couple factors. One, I'm not real sophisticated yet, Jimmy, in terms of crypto, and so I'm not as dialed in as I'd like to be. I don't have the knowledge or the confidence at this point. But also, again, to be completely transparent with you, I don't have at my discretion. I'm a bit risk averse when it comes to this crypto, right? And so I don't have the willingness at this point to go all in, to buy these large bags all at once, to try to go and turn and convert them into this quick dollar. And that's just kind of my perspective in this environment where I don't know enough of it. That's kind of my approach. It's just buy and hold. And, again, I think I have a top 10 list of currencies that I have, and I'm just dollar cost averaging and hoping that of those 10, maybe 2 or 3 actually amount to something. And I understand that probably 5 to 7 of them will not be around in 3 years. And then that's just I wish I could tell you which ones, or I wouldn't be in them.
Do you ever
which
play?
ones they were.
Do you ever play the market like that, Jimmy, where you're like, hey, I'm gonna get these 10. These are my high risk, highly volatile, high potential. Also potential to crash as well. Have you ever played that way in the stock system?
I do, but it's different in the sense that I feel like you can look at like their annual reports, you can look at their price earnings ratio, you can look at their product that they actually have, and it feels like with cryptocurrency, it's kind of like the Illuminati, and it's like this behind the scenes like phantom organization that.
Are you telling me that Origin token isn't backed up by incredible technology? This is a funny joke internal to the buy guys, because we were big on this. They have a really slick website, an amazing video, and some I would say there were some beautiful people in those
The
videos.
smart marketing.
It's good, great marketing. And yeah, but you're right. And we all bought in there a little bit, and it just has plummeted. Although it came back strong. It got a very strange market history, I guess. But the bottom line is that's kind of like, that's the only meme coin, if you will, that I've been in anyway.
And I guess where I come from this is, as I've been looking at Coinbase and the different projects that you guys call them, it shows how many people are buying versus selling. And again, if everyone's talking about crypto as a stored value and its long-term growth, it seems kind of contrary that you would actually be in, be out, be in, be out, be in, be out.
Yeah. To me,
Yeah, I mean, I think.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think just on that first part, we could even talk, is crypto a store of value? I mean, that could be debatable in itself. Like Bitcoin is seen as the quote unquote digital gold, right? It's the most secure, least volatile, has scarcity built into it, unlike some of the others. I mean, Ethereum has a finite number that can be created as well. So I think just on the store of value thing, I'm still trying to figure out, is it a genuine store of value? I guess it is, but if it goes down 50%, it's not really storing much of your value. It's only seen as that if it's a long-term approach. So as a trader, I don't think this is a relevant question. It's a great one, but I just don't think it is one as a trader. As a long-term holder, investing in an asset that has a finite value that with blockchain technology will undoubtedly rise. I think that's what those that are going to be here long-term think. Then, does it beat inflation? I guess is the question. Does it beat what you could make in the market? And is it a reasonable, let's call it, I mean, this is how I'm looking at it, 5% diversification play similar to gold or silver that, you're not going to put 50% of your total portfolio in, maybe Raff does, but I'm looking at this as like a 5% portfolio diversification. And, it's got the potential to lose 50, 60%, but it's got, in my mind, a greater potential to 5 to 10x in 5 years. That's kind of where I'm looking at it. So great question though.
Something else is interesting, and like, what is long-term in this market? For me, I just want to get past the year, because then of course, you're in you're in the capital gains tax situation versus the income tax. And so these guys know. I got in early on this Telcoin is what it's called. And I kind of threw some, funny money at it, and it went extraordinarily high relative to what I put in. I got in less than a penny, and then it went up to I think it peaked at 6.5 cents or 7 cents. And this happened within the course of a few weeks. And I mean, it was bizarre timing. It wasn't intentional. I just kind of caught wind of it. It seemed interesting. And I flipped some of my Ethereum into it. And I remember we were texting about it. I was like, okay, guys, I'm just going to do it. Why not? What do I have to lose? And it went an astronomical amount. But I didn't sell it. I should have, looking back. That would have been a smart move. I'm still up, but it's nowhere near what it was. But I also got caught up in the question of the tax implications. And I felt like, I'm not really going to sell anything unless I've held it for a year. That might be sacrilegious in some circles of crypto world, but we're not traders here. We're buy guys. We should be called, maybe the name of the show should be like buy and hold guys. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. We have 2 more to get through. I want to make sure we give due justice. Okay. I understand use cases, but do you acquire crypto based on using it for personal use in the future or just potential growth in the future? That's an interesting one. I'll give Stu a chance to, putt from the green this time, and I'll break out the one wood, and just take a whack at this. First of all, I am intrigued by some of the use cases described by these emerging coins. I don't actually use any of them personally, or know that I ever will. So that's an interesting question. I guess we were just talking about the Telcoin. This is a remittance token. I guess I would use that if I'm going to send money to someone overseas at some point. I don't really have too many family members that live abroad and don't have access to banking industry, So this is much a different economy that it's servicing. So, and that's the case where I'm buying in, not for my personal use, but just more for my belief in the value proposition of that industry. Looking at other things, the sort of like XRP is a really easy way to transfer money internationally. What other products do I have? I don't think, I will say one that I do get personal utility from, it's minted on Ethereum, is NFTs, non-fungible tokens, is an artistic project. Gary Vaynerchuk, the V Friends is what he calls them. I got in on that in the ground floor. I bought a handful of those guys, very lowest level of his sort of has about, I want to say between 10 and 11,000 NFT cards, different characters, kind of like baseball cards, but they're in a digital world. And instead of baseball players, they're like Disney characters with different attributes. And that's something that actually owning those cards, which I paid some Ethereum for, some fractions of Ethereum for, I now have access to his VCon, which is going to happen in 2022. I'm not sure where or when, but this is like your pass to it for admission to that conference for 3 consecutive years. So I imagine I might want to go to this at some point, or I could sell it to someone who wants to go. And I think, just based on my understanding of my sense, is he's a fantastic character and just someone I'm investing in as a person over years. I think his brand, it will only grow and increase and improve, and therefore the value of these NFTs will increase. I can flip them, or I could go to his conference. I could just have them as collector's items. Who knows? That's the only thing that I have that's a sort of personal use out of this stuff. I've never paid someone in Bitcoin. I've never paid someone or sent money abroad. I think this may be teeing up Stu.
Yeah.
Not quite. You're not in the putting green, Stu, but you're getting ready to get up to the putting green, and you're
I feel good about this.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're going to talk about.
Where it's going, and that's why I'm going to win Moon Bulls. But I think that the reality is my prediction. I'm not Nostradamus. I get it, but I would almost be willing to put decent Vegas money that by the end of this year, Rob and Jeff, and maybe even J-Man, I don't know. I don't know you yet that well, that you will ultimately use AMP. You will use it. And when you take your phone to the Dunkin' Donuts before the end of the year, you're going to pull your phone out, as I almost did this morning on the way to the bank. I might be a bit of a banker, but I almost pulled it out, but I was running a bit behind. I don't want to tell any untruths and say that I've done it yet, but I'm on the precipice of going to my little Dunkin' Donuts before going into work and saying, you know what, I'm going to use my my little phone here. I'm gonna pull it up. I'm going to go to my Gemini wallet, pull it up, let them shoot it, and pay for my drink and some AMP tokens.
You're going to be like the guy who spent 10,000 Bitcoin on 2 pizzas back in the day.
No, I don't want to be that guy, right? I'm going to be the guy that kind of loses his stuff, loses his wallet, all that. I'm going to be that guy, sure. But I think that we're getting there. We're getting there, and maybe it's not by the end of this year, but I do. To answer your question, again, you've asked 5 fantastic questions. I'm going to say personal use, but also the potential. The reason I got in before I even knew that Rob was in, or Jeff, was XRP was the first kind of crypto that I became familiar with. And I like the idea of how, from a growth perspective, and what it was going to do in the future, how it was going to be this bridge That kind of intrigued me. And again, I clearly, of the four of us, and Jamie, you've been on this thing for about 30 minutes, you are probably more intelligent when it comes to crypto than me. Okay. And so for me, I was intrigued by that XRP. It just made sense to me. And so I thought, oh, okay, this is something that people are going to see and understand and think it makes sense. And so that's why I got in about a year ago with XRP. That was my first. And so I think kind of those two, AMP and XRP, check those two boxes.
And they pulled XRP off the exchange. I don't know if you know that, J-Man, but it was on Coinbase. It was readily available. And then they got in a lawsuit with the SEC, and that's just working its way through the system. We all think that has super depressed the price, understandably, because if depending on how they rule, that could moon or it could be, I guess, worthless. I don't actually know. There's a lot of question and speculation over that. I'll kick it over to Noah though on this question, then we'll wrap it up with the fifth question. So go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, real quick answer on this one from my perspective. I mean, I'm not using any of these. Don't plan on it in the next year, quite frankly. What I am trying to do, well, maybe AMP. I could if you use it, I'll try it out. I do own some AMP, but I think on this one, my thought process personally is where the puck is going with blockchain is that there's going to be a handful of key players in this movement. Obviously the Ethereums and the Bitcoins are going to be around, but like Ethereum's really blossoming as this like technology platform everything is being based on that's now touching some of these mainstream applications. And when all this integration happens, there's going to be these layer 1 and layer 2 solutions, and then all these things that fan off of that to try to incorporate it into mainstream life. So I think the goal here, at least for me, is what are the tried and true projects that have good leadership? They're generally in the top 50. Yeah, there's going to be a couple that, you put your moonshots on and try to, 12 or 100x, but for the most part, I'm looking to 5x on the next 5 years as this wave grows, this wave of institutional adoption grows. And then it's just a matter of which ones are going to survive. And the ones that survive and the tokens that you own now, the value of those goes up as institutions and things build on these platforms where, there's more utility with that platform, right? More people want to use the Ethereum token because there's 50 more projects being built on it over the next year that reach 30 million users each, something like that. I'm making that up. But if there's more adoption, that token gets used more, therefore it's more valuable because it's built to be scarce for the most part. So at the end of the day, you're putting your chips where you think these things will survive as this migration to blockchain becomes more widespread and more widely adopted. So
aren't we being a little naive, like in terms of, and Jamie, you can jump in, right? I mean, in terms of the idea of where we'll be a year or 3 years or 5, like in terms of not using it, right? I mean, I watched a video of Gates on Dave Letterman years ago when they were introducing the internet. People almost laughed him off the stage when he was like, why in the hell would I need the internet for any of that? I just look and think we're going to be taking our phones and we're going to be using crypto. I don't know. I have a hard time digesting and thinking that we're not going to be, seeing this become more mainstream in the very, very near future. Well, and when we go out to shop and eat. Go ahead, Jim.
I guess what I was thinking, now you've got PayPal where you can actually buy crypto through PayPal. And so, as the world becomes more digital and as, companies like Tesla, I mean, I understand that they no longer are supposedly supporting Bitcoin or accepting Bitcoin, but it seems to make sense. Like if our currency is, moving to a digital platform where you've got a digital dollar, you've got a digital yen, that at some point these other stored values, if it's built on the same technology, that there would be, for all intents and purposes, value in those currencies. And so a business would be willing to accept either a digital dollar or Bitcoin or Ether. And it just seems like, kind of back to your point of, the platform. I love platforms. Platforms, when I have a stock that owns platforms or that has a platform that things run on, it seems like a great investment. So, the whole Ether Ether network, it seems like would be a really, an easy kind of move, with not wanting to spend, $35,000 on a Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think you're like an ETH man. I would tell you looking at Cardano. That could be really on the cusp of some fascinating use case and smart contracts coming up in August, allegedly. This is all speculation. I can't claim to know. What I hear, what I read, it sounds like an interesting quote unquote ETH killer, but I don't think it has to be an ETH killer to be successful. I think it can be, there's room for all these different applications.
It can coexist.
Yep.
Let's move on to your final question here. We spent a lot of time today, but I've really enjoyed it. And okay, so this is wrapping it up. This stuff is really new, and new crypto is getting released every week. That is a fact. It's crazy. We won't go over some of the names of these things because they're pretty perverted. Anyway, how do you do research to buying new crypto and not having it as a crapshoot? I mean, I think as we said, well, there are some crapshoots every day. There's something out there that, we avoid. I still think it's a different type of crapshoot, but we look at the high market caps. I think all of us are kind of going with ones that are in the top 50 mostly. So in a way, I would say we're not gonna, anyone on this is not going to find that one token that goes up 100x. You buy for fractions of a penny and then it goes to $10. I don't think that's the type of game we're in this for, the way some people are. Pump and dump schemes, all that sort of stuff. So we do research, and I think actually maybe Jeff, this would be kick it over to you. One of our episodes recently, we talked about what's the site? Crypto market, coin market cap. Maybe you can even pull it up. I don't know if it can, put you under pressure here on the fly, but you can show Jimmy there are categories of sort of functionality for each of these coins, and far more than I even thought. My initial thing was like financial transactions, banking, ways to reduce frictions in banking. That was one category. Another category was NFTs or entertainment purposes. Another category to me was like remittances and that sort of thing. But actually, there's a lot more than that. Transportation, healthcare.
And this goes back to the second question, I think, that Jimmy had asked about how do you kind of find that little diamond, or I don't know the exact question, but it was one of those where, again, this type of coin market cap, where you get on and you look at this, what you believe might be an emerging category, and then you drill down into that a little further and say, okay, hey, here's maybe the top 5. So you start doing a little bit of research on those 5, and you think, okay, which one of these might make sense? And
I would say all these on this list that Jeff's scrolling down right now, those are all fairly legit in my mind. Like, I don't think they're going to go to zero overnight the way some other stuff does. Even as far down
contracts.
As far down as algo, I feel like all of that is stuff I hold a little bit of. Now, when you get to I own some tasers. I'm starting at Neo, then I think here I'm a little less confident. And although I've heard them, Zakia or whatever, Zilica, that's got a lot of play in the.
But that's where J-Man, guys like J-Man that they're just intelligent guy in the markets in general, where you understand volume and circulating supply in the market. That's where a guy like you come in behind it and say, okay, based on what I'm seeing now, this has potential. That's where Jeff's really, honest to goodness, Jeff and Rob are both really pretty good at that already. And so again, that's why this is such a valuable resource for folks that kind of have an idea of what they might be looking at.
Yeah, I think, the one thing I'll jump in, J-Man, you probably know you're familiar with the small cap, mid cap, large cap, more volatility in the small cap. So, I think if you're building a portfolio, which you probably have some level of portfolio in crypto now, you're going to have, anybody you talk to, you have some Bitcoin, you have some Ethereum, they're going to be around forever. Cardano is a real popular one. Chainlink, real popular. We all own all of those. And then you start to get into, some other mid cap projects, and then some small caps. So maybe, for me, I'll just say about 15% of my portfolio is like 4 really small cap projects that, the ones we talk about week to week, right? Tell and
those are the fun ones, though, right? For me, that's what makes this entertaining, because I have
So-
the way I research, I'm not sophisticated like Jeff or Rob. I research by rabbit holes. I mean, I just get on there and I know but the one or two that you'd like to try to pull out of there, like the amp. That's the fun part.
How'd you hear about amps, Stu?
Well, that's it, right? I mean, we'd have on a conversation on one of these episodes talking about like different savings accounts. I think maybe it was even before the show. We just started talking about that. And I said, you know what? I have, I'm on this Gemini, and why not? I mean, I know what my bank can offer in terms of a savings account and interest rate, and compared to what Gemini. So next thing you know, I'm on Gemini putting money in there, and then I come across, okay, there was a piece of that allows you to kind of, as we mentioned, go in stores and pay merchants for many of the wallets you have. And the next thing you know, who powers that? Well, it's Flexa. Okay. And AMP is that collateral that they use, the primary collateral. So next thing you know, I'm going down that rabbit hole, 2 in the morning, and I'm reading about AMP. And okay, it makes sense. So it's 5 cents or 3 cents at the time. And I have $25 to spend on a Monday night. And then so you go at it. But that to me is kind of the entertaining part. That's a little bit different than probably what you do for a living, Jamie, in terms of, and maybe not, but I would
that makes sense.
Slightly different.
Yeah, I guess you look at the market caps and you look at some of these movements, and typically, when stocks are down, they're down pretty much across the board. But sometimes you see violent swings within specific currencies, cryptocurrencies, and you just kind of wonder, like, what's the rhyme or reason for one to be down 10% and another one to be up 20% in the same day? Because it seems like at some point the market would flow somewhat in the same direction, if you will. Like, you're not gonna, I guess you see individual stocks that have a good day when the market's down, but it seems like cryptocurrency is a little harder to, it seems like it all is lumped together as one.
It typically follows Bitcoin, right, Jeff?
Yeah. So
Bitcoin's the leader, right? As it goes, a lot of these other cryptos go.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when people, it's really the market, the market cap, money flowing in, retail money tends to go to Bitcoin. New investment goes to Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then trickles down from there into other altcoins, right? So
I will say, in the last mega cycle, whatever you want to call it, moon cycle, every 4 years is allegedly what the cadence is. Of course, it's only happened like 2 or 3 cycles. So everyone thinks it's going to happen again. We're all calling it, but no one really knows for sure. But based on the previous trends, there has been, in each case, a huge run up in Bitcoin, then a fairly sizable crash, and then the altcoin season takes off. And there's like this, they call them seasons. And, obviously people can look back and think they'd like to make perfect timing and predict all this stuff the next time it happens. That's very rare. What I have to get used to, and actually this is something I'll have to think about, and we've talked a little bit about on the show, how do I get out of this thing in a way that I'm confident that I'm, first of all, from a tax standpoint, that I'm making good decisions, that I'm not being greedy and holding too long, being comfortable selling as it goes up, understanding that it could go double even from where you sell it at, but you still, as long as you sell a profit, profits are good, right? Like, just be comfortable making some loot. I think, Jimmy, I told you, and I told these gentlemen, I did sell 1 Bitcoin back like in, I want to say February, March timeframe. I think it was about 40K back then. And I just felt like I want to recover some of my investment, if almost all of it really, in that one fell swoop, just so that I feel like, I've if it goes to zero, I wouldn't have lost everything. Right. And that was a tough decision. And in retrospect, you do that. And then you see the next day it goes up to 42, 45. I'm like, oh man, what was I thinking? 65. Wow. Of course, now I'm feeling pretty good about that decision. I don't want to second guess myself, but someone say you should like cycle out, just as we dollar cost average in, dollar cost average out. Do you do that sort of thing with your stock portfolio, or how do you ever cash those puppies in?
Yeah, I think it's back to your point. You look at your capital gains, and then you look at, you kind of set your pre-date of your point that you want to get out at some, whatever percentage it is, and then you hold true to it. So, you know, I've been involved with Virgin Galactic since it went IPO'd, and you know, I've taken profits and I've bought more, and so you know, that's one of those stocks that you could technically classify as a meme stock. I like it conceptually because I think it's got great long-term potential, but you know, that's one of those ones that's volatile every day, and you know, if for whatever reason, you know, the FAA approves them for commercial use and it goes up 25%, well, I'm taking profits at the 25%. And then if it, you know, if one of the rockets blows up or what have you, it crashes like 25%, well, I'm probably buying more at that point. So I think from my side, you know, with Bitcoin and crypto, I'm still such a novice that I don't know, you know, like you see there, you know, some of the stocks are down, some of the stocks were up like 7.5, 6% for Cardano. Like
Right.
having that as opposed to these other.
That's a buy signal, buddy. That's what you got to do.
Buy guys, right?
That's right, the buy guys.
That's-
So, like, what do you generally think in your portfolio? You might what's a responsible amount to consider for crypto? I just think it's exciting that you're in it. You're
Yeah.
hardcore, legitimate investors. The fact when you told me, Rob, I'm really gonna move in here a little bit. And you were asking me, what should I get? I'm like, man, this is risky, but here's what I would do. And anyway, what do you think?
Well, you know, I think one of the guys was on CNBC, a big hedge fund manager, and his whole premise, this was probably 4 weeks ago, you know, 5% in crypto, 5% in cash, 5% in commodities. And so you hear that and you say, okay, you know, if you got to have, if these guys are saying 5%, you know, it's like, how do you end up getting there from 0%? And how do you make sure that the 5%, you know, that you actually get to 5% and you don't go from, you know, 0 to 1% back to 0 because you buy a bad coin.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, we close it out here, but if you don't mind talking a little bit about what do you bought? I mean, even though you're very new at this, what do you, just kind of the diversity of assets you have at the moment, what would you?
Yeah, I think you know, I've looked a little bit of that polka dot. I think that's you know, obviously Bitcoin. I bought some of the Cosmos.
That's probably smart. I don't own that, but I've heard great things. I think that's
I like it.
And so, you know, I think part of it goes back to, you know, again, that education process. And this seems like a great site. So being able to get in here, and then, you know, I spend a lot of time. I did buy some Litecoin, but I think you know, trying to give it enough value and understanding that, hey, you know, the lion's share of your money is in the stock market. So not forgetting about, like, hey, the stock market's where a lot of mainstream is right now, but dabbling or, you know, tipping a toe or a foot in to the crypto market is, you know, trying to get more educated so I can be more comfortable, so I can make those trades and not have it be like, you know, kind of throwing darts at the dartboard.
Well, hey man, J-Man.
If you don't mind, Rob, J-Man, I have one final question as we put a bow on this. And you've been very kind with your time. Just one question. Who are you pulling for in the Moon Bulls competition?
Well,
who are you really rooting for?
I have to say, you know,
Should be family, right?
I have to stick with family. I gotta go with Raff. You know, I gotta pull for Raff. You know, it's
that's unfortunate.
Blood's thicker than water, right?
Sure. Well, maybe then you could give him some advice on how to come out of third place to maybe at least touch second.
It's brutal, man. It's brutal.
You're a gentleman. You're a gentleman with your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, J-Man. We appreciate it. Our first guest on our newest segment, FAQ4U. You brought some exceptionally challenging questions. I hope you enjoyed your time here. I mean, we'll bring you back in the future in season 2. Who knows? But until next time, you know, lottery, you got to play to win, and crypto, you got to buy to fly. So we'll see you soon on the moon, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.